G'day guys, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this review. I hate to say it, but I think I pretty much summed it up perfectly in my preview, and I hate to be a smartass because I would have loved nothing more than to sit down here and do this review and say I got it completely wrong. I am starting to really trust this football team and this, I suppose this football club, but more so this football team. I actually trust that we're getting a lot right. Okay, a lot right in regards to Voss and the coaching staff. I honestly do, and there's no doubt in my mind that. They may have expected or saw this coming as well, and they would have addressed this. Okay, during the week, but it didn't work. Whatever they would have addressed in regards to I suppose, a drop-off in real intensity, and our game plan is based around energy and intensity. And every game plan, no matter what it is first and foremost a contest. But when you don't have the ball, when you do have the ball and when you don't have the ball, once you win it and once you lose it, we're still battling in a lot of areas. Transition, structure and going inside forward 50, definitely really predictable and really easy to plan for. And that now becomes the challenge for Michael Voss and Ash Hansen and that coaching staff to whether we still go along the same lines or whether we have the ability just to tweak what is happening. So I trust they will identify the problems. They will identify structurally what went wrong, but also identify why there was a lack of intensity, why there was, I suppose, a lack of effort, why we looked listless. Because I saw it coming. In the week before against Hawthorn. I was confident we'd get the job done, but I didn't see that drop off in the second half. And you look at what St Kilda were able to do to Hawthorn, keep them at arm's length and just go away with the game, and then you look at us and go, well, what the fuck happened to us in that second half? And there's no doubt when you have a loss like the one we did on the weekend against the Gold Coast Suns, who continue to be our bogey side, like it or not, and that is a difficult ground to play on, or a difficult place to play in when you fall behind and things aren't going your way, or it gets slippery, it's humid, and it's definitely really hard and taxing to one, remain in the game, and two, to press. And we looked sapped, there's no doubt about that, and it was just lacklustre. So they'll identify that, there's no doubt about that. So for me though, this year, I still don't trust this team. And it is around the players. I think when you win, there's no doubt you think, okay, I'm starting to trust, but you still don't trust. And I think that's going to be the case. Until we have some success. And that could even be a premiership. But no doubt for us, we want to play finals. But until we get there, I don't think we're going to truly trust this team. And there's a lot of individuals in this group who are not so much flying under the radar, but are on the periphery. And you have your periphery players, you have your role players. Not everyone in your team's going to be an A-grader. But the facts are, even in our wins this year, we're still very much reliant, on too few. And if those few are not having a huge impact on the game, there is definitely a drop-off. And that was no more prevalent, I suppose, with Cripper going down. One, there was a lack of real leadership, for the group to be able to take the bull by the horns. You know, it would have been great to see Sam Walsh and Jacob Wiedering really lead that. But they didn't. And then the next layer of players as well. I would have loved to have seen the periphery players drive this, and really step up. I think the good teams have those players who can stand up and be really counted when you're down and when it is really hard. But we continue to, I suppose, carry blokes, and that is us. That is us at the moment. We are carrying, and as much as we would like to say Setters has been okay, O'Brien has been okay, Fisher was okay, Owies was okay, Young was okay against Hawthorn, Plowman's important and Newman's important and, Martin plays a role and even Zach Williams is starting to build. I don't think we necessarily, well, I don't anyway, trust this next layer of players. I'm starting to trust someone like Matthew Kennedy, who had a shocker, no doubt about that, but I'm trusting him now because he's built consistency across a period of time, and I'm sure he'll bounce back. I don't think he'll have two really poor games in a row. But that group I just mentioned, that group, and you can add TDK into that as well, and I'll get to him in a second. That group I just mentioned, okay, just really, really underwhelming. And I don't think we will grow as a team unless we get a bigger contribution from that group. I really don't. And for me, apart from the lack of energy, I couldn't look at any of those blokes and say, okay, other than Williams, I couldn't look at any of those and go, you showed us something. You showed us just a little bit. At least you can come up and hold your head up high. Not one of those, okay, had any impact on this game at all. And if you look across even our wins, okay, when you win like that, those games against Richmond and the Bulldogs and then Hawthorn, you tend to really look for the good, okay, in those periphery players. And maybe we've been slightly overrating them just a bit in the first part of the season. So for me, we don't improve until we get a bigger impact. And it doesn't have to be an A-grade performance. They just need to give us more right across the board. And the positive is the VFL are flying at the moment, and there are players putting their hand up to play AFL football. And there needs to be, given the poor second half against Hawthorn and now a really, really poor fourth-quarter performance against the Gold Coast Suns, there needs to be multiple changes. And I'm not talking changes just based on injuries. Cripper obviously needs to be replaced. There needs to be, okay? Do we change willy-nilly, okay, and really completely swing the axe? No. All right, but I think there is enough pressure now from below, okay, for these guys at VFL level to be rewarded. There's no doubt, okay, we went into that game thinking TDK could step up. And he didn't. And there's no doubt he's down on confidence. Does he look shot? I think he does. He's playing a really interesting role when he's not playing in the ruck, and I think when he does give a bit of a chop out in the first three games of the year, he's got plenty of energy, he can leap at centre bounces, he generally goes up against the number 2 ruckman, so from that perspective I think it somewhat worked, and I think forward with our game plan and our structure, he at least provides an opportunity for Harry and Charlie in particular, and even Jack, to get off the chain. But as a number 1 ruckman, he's a mile off, an absolute mile off. And his work around the ground was the most disappointing thing for me. And I know Jared Witts is an experienced, seasoned ruckman, but he really bullied him. He really did. And the lack of, resistance from TDK in that regard was really disappointing. So it's going to be fascinating to see what we do with him moving forward. And is there an opportunity? Is there an opportunity to play him in a different position. And I know, you know, we want him to play forward as that third tall. But is he a natural tall forward? Is he actually a natural tall forward, or is he just a decoy at the moment? And is that doing him true justice and doing his confidence any good? Because he certainly was outplayed on the weekend in the ruck, and it just showed, okay, that against bigger and stronger opposition and more experienced ruckmen, he's not the answer. So is there a chance to give him a trial down back? I don't know. Is there a trial? Could we give him a spell in the twos and play him down back? Because watching the twos, one thing we are short of down back in the VFL is tall defenders. He is nimble. Is he better seeing the ball coming towards him in the air? Can he? And when he's on song, he is aggressive. Okay, he is desperate. And one thing we do know is that we do have a lack of options in our back half. So it's just an option, and it's just a thought. It's just a thought. It'd be interesting to see what we're actually going to do with TDK, whether he goes back to the VFL or we persist with him. It all becomes about the response. There's no doubt about that, but we have to address that. Okay, why didn't we respond this week after the drop off against Hawthorn in the second half? Why were we unable to respond against the Gold Coast Suns? Why did we as a whole predict that? Okay, so we're not trusting this team. Michael Voss has to trust his boys. But right here, right now, I would say that Voss would be thinking, fuck, what are we going to produce this week against Port Adelaide? We're going to do everything in our power to get ourselves up. But based on what he saw on the weekend, he'd be thinking, shit, fuck, I'm hoping that we're able to come out, okay, and produce better football than what we did. He'd have to be, okay? There'd have to be some apprehension. So does he go? Does he go with the status quo? Or does he try and freshen this group up a little bit in regards to bringing in some blokes who are in terrific form in the VFL? Speak soon.